Welcome back to a brand new season of Where You At, the podcast where we have honest conversations about navigating our 20s, building our careers, and figuring out life in real time. I'm your host, Taylor Anthony, and today I'm joined by a fellow Medill alum. He just graduated, Brock Morgan. Brock is a Howard University graduate and a former D1 football player. Since graduating from Medill, he landed his first on-air role at Fox 54 in Huntsville, Alabama, but this comes after submitting 223 job applications. So we're going to be talking about his journey from the football field to journalism, navigating rejection, and continuing to believe in yourself when you've done everything right, but the opportunity still hasn't arrived. Brock, welcome to Where You At?
Thank you. Appreciate you having me.
Of course, thank you for taking the time to come on. I can only imagine how crazy things have been for you lately.
Yeah, it's been busy, but a blessing for sure. Definitely thankful for the exposure, and it's been a good networking opportunity for me as well. Some of these anchors and producers at larger stations and larger places, they're reaching out to me and saying congratulations and appreciative of that. But also that's a connection. Hey, I'd love to stay in touch with you, that kind of thing. So it's been a blessing in a lot of different ways.
Absolutely. I'm glad to hear that. I mean, especially coming off of NABJ, the conference. I know we didn't get the chance to connect there, but, how was your experience there? Was that your first conference or have you been before?
It was busy. So that was my second conference. Last year in Cleveland, I was NABJ Student Journalist Grant winner. Had a chance to work for First Take. And then this year, I spoke on a panel. I won a grant from Northwestern to go. And it was good. It was a good experience. Definitely a homecoming type of vibe. An opportunity to meet some new people and also meet people that you might be mutuals with or you've emailed or LinkedIn, that kind of thing. Just a chance to shake hands and that kind of thing. So it was good. Great experience for sure.
Oh, good. I'm glad to hear that. So we'll get into more. We'll get into everything a little bit more. But so you said you're currently still in Chicago right now. You just finished up school, so things are moving, huh?
Yeah, things are moving. Allegedly somebody is coming to buy this couch and dresser from me, and we'll just have to ship all the clothes and shoes home and a couple pots and pans, and we'll start fresh in Huntsville.
There we go. Okay. I remember my last few, the end of Medill, the end of summertime, getting ready to move, but I also got to get rid of all the stuff that's in Chicago. So when I lived there, I lived in Wicker Park, kind of near the Wicker Park area. So I took the Blue Line downtown to school. Are you downtown or do you live further out?
Yeah, I'm very close to the school. I took the pedway to school in the summer most of the time, so that was a big plus for me, especially being from the South and hating the winters here, and also it made a nice and easy commute. I would come home and eat lunch, so no regrets at all.
Oh, good. Did you enjoy your time in Chicago? I mean, it's such a great city. It's probably one of my favorite cities, honestly.
Absolutely. And that was something I was talking to some people about, just like, oh, are you sad you're leaving Chicago? And, my emotions are kind of the same as when I left DC. Like, I got what I came for as far as the degree and the job and, had great professional experiences, being able to work for First Take and Medill, and be able to work for the Bears, be able to take advantage of Medill Explorers. I was credentialed media for the Obama Center, that kind of thing. And then also taking advantage of the fun of Chicago, right? To be able to go to the beach. And, I just came from the Griffin Museum. That was great. Being able to kayak and paddleboard and, be on the lakefront. Take the subway pretty much anywhere in the city and, all the outdoor festivals they have. I was just at Taco Festival last weekend. And so Chicago's great. It's been good to me. I've enjoyed it, met some good people, friendship wise and good people professionally as well. So again, no regrets, especially being on full scholarship here. That was a blessing as well.
Absolutely. So many things working in your favor. So it's exciting to see how things have ended up for you now. It was a little bit of a journey to get to this point, but I do want to say I hear you're from North Carolina, you said, right? I hear your Southern accent a little bit.
Some people do, some people don't. I mean, it is what it is. I sound how I sound, so I don't.
Yeah, just a little slight twang. But I'm not from the South. I'm from Ohio, actually. So I've been in the Midwest. OH, yes, go Bucks. I'm a big Buckeyes fan. So yeah, born and raised is a quick little rundown about me. Born and raised in Northeast Ohio. So I grew up, well, you're a sports guy. So I grew up in like Canton, Massillon area, so Pro Football Hall of Fame.
Hmm.
and then went to school in Cleveland for undergrad at John Carroll. It's a big D3 football school. And then I went to Medill right after undergrad. So graduated undergrad in 23, Medill in 24, went right, back to back. Me personally, I didn't really get that journalism experience that I needed in undergrad. So that's kind of why I chose to do Medill, to get that, that professional experience to helped me leap into the industry. And I was very blessed to be able to do just that. I started at my first market here in Buffalo, New York. So that was, a blessing, but I don't think I would be here. I know I wouldn't be here if it weren't for Medill and the network and the experiences and the skills that, it gave me, even in that 1 year that we're there. I mean, that there's so much that we learn. There's so many things that we gain just from that time. So
That's something that I've talked to people about the program as well. It's not
mhm,
like going to med school or, law school or anything like that, because a lot of people say you don't necessarily need a master's for journalism, but
mhm,
you you create advantages based on what you want, right? Like it was a goal for me to be on air, so I made sure to have a studio class every semester. We had the
mhm,
303 countdown, which is very similar to an ESPN show. The first half is the news of sports. We had OTSs, we had people at the monitor, we had packages, things like
mhm.
that. And then the last four, we're debating it out. Everybody's in their four box. Then
Yeah.
we'll do a first take, an around the horn type of deal, and so that was
Mhm,
important for me. And then again, like I talked about earlier, taking advantage of the community. You're in the number three media market, especially for me,
mhm,
being sports. Having an opportunity to be involved with every team. The Blackhawks, they had an NABJ day. Like I said, I was able to work two Bears games, that kind of thing. I covered DePaul's senior day for the basketball game. So again, just getting those reps in wherever you can, because I mean, the biggest knock you're going to have as a journalist coming out of school is you're young. You haven't been on anybody's TV screen
exactly.
yet. The master's degree is good. It's going to stand out. It's gonna work well for you, but again, it's just not going to
Mhm.
the end all be all. Experience is still king or queen, however you want to look at it. And, just making sure that my spending time in the studio, making sure my reel
Mhm,
looks the way it needs to, especially at Medill. The studio we have, it's night and day compared to Howard. At Howard, we might have used it for one class a handful of times. Here you're using it pretty much, every week for,
mhm.
and like I said, you can have a studio class every semester if you want to. So just making sure I'm being intentional about that. And then of course the network, is your network
Yes.
is your network. So just making sure to lean on that Medill brand. My news director actually in Huntsville, he went to Northwestern, so that was a nice
Ah.
connection there. And it's again, it's going to open doors for you as well.
Absolutely. This the Medill, the Northwestern name, and the skills, everything we learned in our time there. That's definitely what will continue to set us apart. Yes, we're still very early on in the industry, but that's okay. Our age doesn't mean that we can't do, quality journalism, quality work, and that we aren't worthy of some of those positions that say, "Oh, this much experience is required," because it's like we've gotten that just in, different ways. So completely agree with you there. But I know you mentioned Howard, so take us back a little bit. How, I guess, even, your journey at, yes, HU. I would
No,
not go to an HBCU,
nobody's perfect.
but I've plenty of friends that did. I know, but I have plenty of friends who did, so I can, vicariously live through them in a way. But, what was your time like there? Were you a journalism major? Was journalism always the plan? Tell us a little bit about your trajectory.
Yeah, so not necessarily. So I think I have to go a little bit farther back to high school. I'm a teacher's
Mm-hmm.
kid. My mom was a teacher. She taught for 24 years up until her passing. I was an AP
Oh,
kid
I'm
in high
sorry.
school. Thank you. I was an AP kid in high school. So, typically, the only black kid in class, there was even a year I was the only guy, period, in class. And so
Mm-hmm.
definitely that was during A&T's kind of run of dominance in the MEAC, the Mid-Eastern Athletic Conference. They won the Black National Championship back-to-back years. And I was like, man, definitely want to go play for A&T, go to A&T. And I went to I went on an unofficial visit he's not my uncle, but he's my uncle, on an unofficial visit to A&T. It
Mm-hmm.
was there. They sat us right next to the student section. So I just remember being on campus and the band and, seeing, looking around, seeing everybody that looks like me, that kind of thing. So it was a positive thing for me.
Mm-hmm.
So A&T was my number one coming out of school, and I didn't necessarily know it was journalism for sure, but the
Mm-hmm.
goal was mass communications. I knew I was a good writer, a good speaker. I'm the youngest pulpit associate in church history back home. Didn't like math, so that was another factor.
Yeah, STEM wasn't the
Yeah,
field that you were.
oh no, no. And then in high school, I started a petition to change the name of Woodrow Wilson Elementary School. And so
Mhm,
seeing that get picked up in the paper and the local news, that kind of thing, it kind of pushed me towards journalism as well. And then, of course, played football. So, just always remember sitting
mhm,
with my dad on the weekends and seeing the guys in studio and on the sideline, that kind of thing. So that pushed me towards it as well. Um, and so, as far as my decision went, I had 22 academic acceptance letters coming out of high school.
wow.
So, definitely sorted through all of those. I wanted to go to a school in a major city. I wanted to go to
Mhm,
a place where I had a chance to play, and I wanted to go to a HBCU. And then, obviously, scholarships play a big role in that. So, wasn't
mhm.
recruited by A&T, unfortunately, but they also lost double-digit games in back-to-back years. So, there was a lot they were doing right. So I went
Rejection is protection.
Protection is protection. I went to Howard, loved it. I did degreed in three, magna cum laude.
Wow.
Like I said, played football, wrote for the newspaper and the magazine, took full advantage of that and had fun as well.
Mhm,
I had a lot of fun in DC, had a lot of fun on campus, lived on campus all 3 years. So went to all the events, all the
mhm.
things. So had fun there. And on it was the spring. It was the spring of my second year, and just remember sitting in the counselor's office saying, hey, you can either do an 18 and an 18 credit your senior year, or you can,
Mhm.
come back in the fall of 26 for like 2 or 3 classes. So I was like, hey, we might as well buckle up and finish up
Get
and
it done. Yeah.
yeah, get it done. And had I had a list of a ton of schools that I thought I was good enough to go to for my
Mhm.
master's, thought I was good enough to have it paid for. Shrunk that list down to four. It was here, Northwestern, A&T, University of San Diego, and Columbia. I went 3 for 4 as far as acceptances, and 2 out of the 3 were full scholarships, both
Wow.
here in A&T. So I was actually committed to A&T first, and then
Mhm.
I was made sure to connect with everybody before I applied. So our dean, Charles Whitaker, he saw it on LinkedIn. He was like, "Hey, we got this money for you. Going to take it or not?" So got on the next flight I could find and crashed with my cousin,
Mhm.
Aisha Hawkins, who's in the medical program here, studying to be a
Mhm.
and had a great visit. Saw all the things, and we flipped it from there, and here we are. So.
Wow. Wow. So it's kind of interesting that, okay, so your time at Howard and you're like, okay, I already know that, I want to pursue another degree. For apply for you have your whole list and then you narrow it down and then okay, you end up in Chicago, you end up at Northwestern. So of course it was meant to be. And not only did you end up at Northwestern, but you ended up at Northwestern on scholarship and having your master's degree based completely paid for?
Yeah, for sure. It was a blessing. So I was a Woodlawn Hall scholar at
Mhm.
FD. It's a full scholarship, but it's a 1 year scholarship, a 2 year deal. Woodlawn Hall, he was the first person to earn his master's from A&T, and he taught in the Durham area and was like a principal
Mhm.
of public schools. And so this is the Simmons Family Scholarship. It's for HBCU graduates who are pursuing the sports track. So again, it was a blessing for me. And then I did get some money from San Diego, but it wasn't full, and that would have been a lot going from coast to coast, that kind of thing. So
Mhm.
it was just a better deal all the way around. And this is a Master of Science in Journalism, Sports Media concentration at A&T. It would have been a Master's in English and African American Studies, which I knew coming in,
Okay.
but I still would have took advantage of everything. Would have been at NABJ and did their student broadcast,
Mhm.
their
Mhm.
student newspaper, that kind of thing. And just going back to the Master's specifically, I my original motivation was football. Like I said, I was an early graduate. I was redshirted my freshman year. Just things weren't going well for me at Howard, but it is what it is. And that was part of my motivation for wanting my master's. I was like, okay, just gonna get the master's and start fresh playing somewhere else. So
Mhm. So it all worked out for you. It all worked out. I was also a student athlete. I ran track, so I
what
completely get, say that again.
what event?
I was a sprinter, so indoor the 60, the 200, yeah, outdoor 100, 200, 4x1, the relays, but the discipline and the lessons I took from that, being a student athlete and not only being a student athlete at the Division 3 level. So, the priority was really emphasizing that the student part of athletics, but still being, just as competitive. But, the discipline, the time management, the lessons you learn from that, I mean, things that can apply in so many different aspects of your life. Those skills are so transferable. I mean, you're dedicating hours of practice time during your academic weeks and, just learning to manage your time and still, put your all in to everything that you're doing. I mean, I don't know if there's ever going to be a time that you're as busy as you were in college. So it's like, if you can do that and manage that successfully, I mean, I don't know if it gets too much more difficult than that. So I completely relate to you, from that student athlete experience as well. I did my 4 years in undergrad, and then I didn't pursue athletics after that. But I feel like, you're a lifelong athlete. So just finding ways to, look back on those experiences and see how so many of those lessons still play a role in your life and your career today. So.
Oh yeah, absolutely. The game doesn't leave you. And man, I'll never forget my fall second year at Howard. I didn't think I
Hmm.
was gonna make it, man. I had 8 a.m.s and I had meetings and practices, man. It was
Uh-huh.
a lot. I would leave at 7. I would get up at 7,
Hmm.
home by 7:30, eat breakfast, be in class at 8,
Hmm.
have class for about 2 hours. By that time, it's time for lunch because again, an athlete, you gotta put all
You
the
got to fuel.
and you got to put all those calories back. Have that. Had another class. By that time, it was time to go to meetings. Had meetings. Had practice.
Hmm.
Get out of practice. It's time for dinner. You get done with that. It's 8 o'clock at night. The sun is going down. So it was
Hmm.
rough, but we made it. Had a nice little 4.0 semester, and we.
There we go. Oh, good, good. Yeah, I know it could be a lot. Thinking back, you're like, how did I do that exactly? But at the end of the day, athletics is something you love. You want to keep doing it, but I knew I wasn't going to be an athlete forever, so I wanted to make sure that I was taking advantage of internship opportunities, other professional opportunities that were coming my way. Still prioritizing, everything else that I was involved in, but I had to also look at the future and what was Taylor going to be doing beyond her 4 years of undergrad. What was that next chapter going to look like? So I completely get it. But I'm thankful for all of it. Thankful for everything along the way. I don't think I would change a thing, even even though I wasn't at a journalism school for those 4 years. Some people, they're at a big journalism school in undergrad, so they can just graduate and go straight into the industry. Um, if I Things would be very different for me if that was my trajectory. So I'm very happy that I had this experience, because if I didn't, I wouldn't have ended up at Medill. So everything happens for a reason. I believe, divine timing, divine intervention, God's timing, and I think that He has a plan. He has a plan for us, and whether we can see that or not, we just have to have the faith to know that it's all laid out the way it's supposed to be, and we're walking in our purpose.
Amen. Amen to that for sure.
Yeah. So, okay, so you graduate from Howard, go to Medill, build this impressive resume. On paper, it looks like, everything's supposed to fall into place for you. But then comes the job search. 223 applications, Brock. I mean, when did you start applying? Were you keeping track of every application from day one? Walk me through this process.
Yeah, so I started applying, I believe it was that first week in June, like right before graduation or either right after. We have our ceremony and then we officially graduate
Right.
summer. So did that and then just staying active, right? I'm sure but everybody may not. A lot of these local stations are owned by corporations. So Scripps, Hearst, Nexstar,
Mm-hmm.
Tegna, those are some of the bigger ones you're gonna hear about. So just making
Mm-hmm.
sure to live on their websites and then of course connect with people because it's a competitive industry. There's a lot of people who want to do it. There's a lot of people who think they can do it. And so just making sure that you're, being proactive about that, being cognizant of that as far as connecting with recruiters and hiring managers, GMs, fellow reporters and producers at some of the
Mm-hmm.
stations you may want. And then also having goals, right? It was my goal to be on air. So, passing up on some of these producer jobs and writer jobs, things like that. That was important for me as
Yeah.
well. And then also, just having just being yourself, right? Just being a black man with hair, a little bit of facial hair too. Not quite Kendrick Perkins, but I'm gonna get there. So, you're applying to some of these smaller towns and, smaller stations where, excuse me, the management may be a little bit more homogenous, the audience may be a little bit more homogenous, but,
Hmm.
just making sure there's conversations there because you don't want, there's times where, hey, have you thought about cutting it? Or, hey, we would love for you to stick to one style or that kind of thing. So,
Hmm.
and that's also a slippery slope as well. You're asking me to cut my hair. You might ask me to change my script next, or you might ask me to not do or say a certain thing then. And so, it's just making sure to be cognizant of that and, be
Hmm.
unapologetic as well, too.
Yeah, that's so important. That's so important because you want to stay true to yourself. I mean, of course, yes, you want the job, you want a job,
Yeah.
but it's like at what cost, right?
Yes. Yes. If it costs your peace and your personality is too valuable, just you're a person
Hmm.
at the end of the day. You can't be just your job, right? So making sure
Right,
that's
right. So, Brock, was there ever a point when, I mean, I'm guessing, what was it, 222 rejections or just ghosting? I mean, was there ever a point when you were like questioning, is this the right path? Questioning your skill set, if you're qualified.
never a question of the skill set. That just goes back to your personal confidence. Your mentality
Hmm.
is your superpower. The only way somebody can change the way you think is if you let them. I knew that I was good. I have confidence in the work that I did.
Hmm.
Both in campus and around on campus and around school. So it was never a question of ability. It was just a question of getting it in front of the right people and being relentless,
Hmm.
living on these websites, that kind of thing. And also, prioritizing me, making sure to go on walks and go on runs and, stay in the weight room, go lift a little bit and, keeping your mental health up as well and unplugging as well,
Hmm.
right? Because you're coming after a TV career, turning off ESPN and CBS and Fox and that kind of thing. Like I
Hmm.
told Don Lemon the other day, a good way for me to unplug is cartoons, right? Popeyes, Transformers, Looney Tunes, Tom and Jerry, the whole nine. So just
Hmm.
making sure to take care of me in that way as well, because you're a person at the end of the day. So
Yeah, that's so important. You got to prioritize yourself, your health and well-being, mental health, physical health, all of it, and even carrying that as you enter the job force. It can be very easy to get caught up in, the grind, the hustle. But at the end of the day, you got to put yourself first sometimes too, and take that PTO, take that extra time if you need. Do what you got to do to make sure you're okay. Because if you're okay, if you're not okay, then it's going to be harder to do the job that you need to show up for every day. So I know it's very important. And I actually, it's kind of funny. I remember seeing before you even went viral. I remember seeing your LinkedIn post. It like popped up on my feed because I'm sure we have a ton of mutual connections through Medill and whatnot. And someone had mentioned, it's like, oh, did you see like this Medill alum? He applied 223 times. I was like, geez, like, well, good for him. He finally got, what it took the 223rd was all it takes is one yes, right?
absolutely, absolutely.
And I remember seeing that. So what was okay, so you made the LinkedIn post and then what? The phone started ringing, the email started coming in. I mean it was like overnight. It was like, oh, ABC News Live, and then last night, what, Don Lemon? I mean, that's crazy, Brock.
Yeah, it's been a whirlwind, but I'm thankful for it as well. So honestly, I was gonna hold the news a little bit longer, but I went to NABJ and everybody kept asking me, hey, you're about to graduate, what's next? And so I was
Hmm.
like, just kept getting it, kept saying it verbally. So I was like, all right, might as well put it out there. And then just again, just making sure that's an advantage of our generation, right? The gap between
Hmm.
what you don't know and what you could know has never been smaller. A lot of these executives and reporters and anchors and things like that, they're on LinkedIn, they're on social media. And so, to making sure you're staying active on there, making sure you have a presence, that's important as well. And then just going
Hmm.
back to the business, right? Less people order newspapers to their houses, less people sit down and watch the 6 o'clock news. And so
Right.
making sure to have a social media presence. So, just make sure I post on LinkedIn frequently and did that. And it, gained a little traction after a couple days. And
Hmm.
I'm in a group chat with a couple guys. We either went to school together or met in Cleveland last year. And they sent it to me. I
Okay.
thought they were messing with me, but, just followed the link and it was real. And the New York Post picked it up. Very thankful for that. And then,
Wow.
that was the big domino. And then
Hmm.
a lot of people picked it up from there. Like I said, Don Lemon last night. Fox 32 in Chicago, Fox 5 in DC, WSOC, which is the my local station back home, a
Hmm.
radio station in Texas. We have something set up for later this week. The Grio picked it up, and it's just it's been a lot, but it's been a blessing for sure.
Yes. Oh my goodness. It's kind of like your life changed overnight. Thankfully, you already had a job and it wasn't like, but I'm sure if you didn't, something would have come from that.
Yeah, yeah. It's like I said, it's been a networking opportunity as well. You know, some of
Hmm.
bigger producers and anchors, reaching out, saying how inspiring it is. But hey, stay in touch with me.
Yeah.
In news and journalism, your first job isn't your last job for the most part.
Hmm.
Making sure you're being cognizant of that, and like I said, your network is your net worth. So.
Absolutely. And what would you say that process would taught you about being qualified versus being chosen? I mean, over 200 no's. What does that tell you?
It just speaks to God, right? He has a plan for everybody. He has a vision. And on the other side of it, I am thankful it took 200 because it probably wouldn't have been picked up if it was 10 or 15 or whatever the case may be.
Hmm.
And then also, just going back to being intentional, having goals. Huntsville fit the bill for me. A little bit closer to home. It wasn't a
Hmm.
have to have, but it's a plus for sure. I could make that 6 hour drive in a weekend or so, and
Hmm.
to be in a place where there's going to have some elements of sports. In the South, high school football is big, and Alabama A&M is in Huntsville, and so and also for it to be Market 75, that's a blessing as well. And then again,
Hmm.
just going back to personality, they're going to be fine with the hair and the personality and all that kind of stuff. So that's important for me as well. And then also, just um, making sure to being okay with not listening to all advice, right? Because that's
Hmm.
something you hear, hey man, with that hair you might not da 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 da, or hey, you can't go top 100 coming out of school, or hey, if you want to
Hmm.
do journalism, it's going to be all news, you're not going to have a chance at sports starting out, and all of those things are the inverse for me starting out as well. So.
Hmm. Yeah, sometimes at that point you have to quiet the other voices and you have to stay true to yourself, and that's exactly what it seems like you did. So, Fox 54, Huntsville, Alabama, you'll be starting there in September?
At the end of September, yes, I'll go home for
End of
about 3 weeks,
September.
and then
Okay.
we'll make the drive down.
Okay. Okay. And how are you feeling about that transition?
I'm feeling good. I just got approved for the apartment a couple days ago, about 10 minutes from the studio, and we'll, just it's a fresh start, new city. Looking forward to putting a lot of the lessons that learned at Howard, learned at Northwestern in the practice,
Hmm.
and we'll build the reel and build the resume, and have every intention of being in good shape, whatever that may look like at the end of the 2 years, if not beforehand. So.
Okay. Yeah. Was Huntsville like one of the last applications, or was it kind of in the middle of the process, or you remember where it fell?
Kind of in the middle. So they offered me on July 31st, and there was about 2 weeks in between so I got a LinkedIn request from one of their producers, and
Hmm.
she was like, "Hey, we got your name from the GM. We have an open role. We'd
Hmm.
love for you to apply." So, applied, had an interview, had one more interview, and about 2 weeks went by, background checks and all this and that.
Hmm.
No,
Hmm.
we got it about 2 weeks later. So it was looking back on it, it wasn't that long of a process, but being in it felt long because I've definitely heard the horror stories of folks going 9 months, a year without a job. So
Hmm.
that was one of my goals as well coming into Northwestern. I didn't want I wanted to go home and have a little bit of a break, but I didn't want to go home and not
Hmm.
going. So yeah, it worked out.
Hmm. Oh, good, good. And can you take me back to that feeling of just getting that first yes, getting that first offer, and getting that first offer with all of the things that you were essentially looking for in a first role?
Yeah, yeah. Again, it just goes back to show you how good God is. First Samuel 18,
Hmm.
14, and everything he did, he had great success. Not good success, not all right success, not decent success, great success, because the Lord was with him. And
Yeah.
so he was with me on this process, and just like he was with me in DC, and he'll be with me in Huntsville and beyond. And so I think it just
Hmm.
speaks to his grace for real.
Yeah, amen to that. And what advice would you have for someone out there that may be starting their own job search? They're getting that rejection. They're questioning, their qualifications. They're questioning their career path. What advice do you have for maybe that recent grad or that young adult out there?
I would just say remember that dreams don't chase you back, right? You gotta definitely go after what you want for sure. And then also being intentional. Like I said, I wanted to be on air. I went after the on air job.
Hmm.
Just making sure you're being connected as well. Because again, it is competitive, and then all the cliches, right? Work hard, treat people nice on your way up, nothing worth having
Hmm.
comes easy, all the things. And so, just making sure you're being persistent, and also again, making sure you're taking a break. You want to be more than what your job is. Rome wasn't built in a day.
Hmm.
And you gotta prioritize you, of course.
Absolutely. And like you said, your network is your net worth. I know we said that earlier, but in that sense, networking with your peers, like you want to network up, of course. You want to talk with the people, the higher ups, but your peers, that's your community, that's your support system. And you never know how you're going to intersect in each other's lives one day. So that's just as important to remember. I think sometimes maybe when you're young, you can get caught up in saying, oh, I need to reach out to this higher up, or I need to reach out to this CEO, this exec, this GM, this news director. But yes, that's very important. I don't want to invalidate that, but it's just as important to make sure you're keeping your community, your peers. And I think that's so evident, especially at a conference, at a place like NABJ, and you see that family, that community feel, because this industry is huge, but it becomes very small very quick. So,
Yeah, that's a big lesson that I've learned as well. The earth is big, but the world is small. You run into one person and,
hmm.
oh man, I know them. We started out together, or we went to school together, or,
Hmm.
we met 4 years ago at a conference, or, we're social media mutuals, or whatever the case may be. So there's a lot of invisible strings out there.
Yes. So, in the midst of everything, going on in your life right now, Brock, a lot of transition, a lot of good, good things happening. So probably a good stress, yes, it's a lot, but where do you feel that you're at right now in this chapter specifically?
I feel like I'm on the edge of, I feel like I'm at the end of a chapter, right? High school
Hmm.
was its own chapter. Howard was its own chapter. This is its own chapter. And, we're finishing up here. And, like I said, we're going to go home for a little bit, hang out with dad and the
Hmm.
dog, and go to church with grandma, all the things. And,
Oh, that'll be nice. That'll be
yeah,
nice.
all the things. And, we'll get started in Huntsville, and that'll be its own chapter. So, yeah, at the end of one chapter, on
Yes.
the start of another one.
Yeah. What kind of dog do you have? I gotta ask.
It's not my dog. It is a poodle.
Oh,
It's a poodle
it's
mix.
a poodle.
It's a poodle
Okay.
Milo. So we'll hang out with Milo.
Milo.
I got a ball from when the Big Ten tournament was here, so I'll bring him a ball.
Hmm. Oh, I'm sure he'll love that. He'll love that. Well, is there anything you're nervous about or anything that you're worried about, or you're like, it should just be turning the page?
Yeah, I really should just be turning the page. That's really one thing that a place that I grew in my transition compared from high school to Howard, from Howard to Northwestern, just really,
Hmm.
really did a bad job of psyching myself up like, oh man, it's Howard, it's a top HBCU, it's in a major city, it's
Hmm.
far from home, yada, yada, yada. Um, but going from Howard to Northwestern, just kind of just settling in, right? If I wasn't good enough, they wouldn't have offered the scholarship. If I wasn't good enough, they wouldn't have accepted me. They aren't gonna, especially coming from a program like Howard. I knew that they weren't gonna ask me to do anything I haven't already done. Write, shoot, edit,
Hmm.
report, turn things in on time. Work well in a team, that kind of thing. And it's gonna be the same. It's going to be the same element at Fox 54, write, shoot, edit, report, work well in a
Hmm.
team, be on time, before time, those kind of things. And I think it goes back to your mentality as well. During orientation week, J.A. Adonde, our sports director here, I remember shaking his hand on the first day. Hey, I will be the best in the program. And that was just kind of my mentality. Not that I didn't think highly of my classmates, because I did, and I still do. But again, just taking
Hmm.
that same mentality to Huntsville. Not that I don't think highly of their anchors and reporters, because I do, but just want to bring that mentality to everything that I do. Every paper, every
Hmm.
report, every anchor opportunity. I just wanted to be the best it can be.
Yeah, and walk into that news station with your head held high and just show them what you can do. Let your work speak for itself. Let your work and your work ethic speak for itself.
Oh yeah, for sure, no doubt.
And I know a little earlier on that you mentioned your mom passing. I'm so sorry for your loss, but
Thank you.
if, she were still here with you today, or she's looking down, what do you think she would say about where Brock is at, where he's heading, and all of the blessings that have been in his favor?
Hope she's proud, obviously. And outside of that, I'm honestly not sure. We never had a chance to talk about grad school. She passed in December of 2023, and then that spring was kind of the meeting that I talked about. Just registering for classes coming up, and just
Hmm.
kind of getting the ball rolling on grad school for there. So honestly, not sure, but hope she'll be proud. Hope she'd be excited, and
Yes, and seeing the person, the young man that you've grown into, and I mean, doors are just going to continue to keep opening for you. It seems like you're doing everything right. I mean, look where you are now. So that's, it's amazing to finally get the chance to connect with you. I'm very happy for you. I'm always going to be supporting on my fellow Medill alum. So very excited for, what's in store, but the best is yet to come. We can already tell that.
thank you. I appreciate it. I'm just trying to live up to great expectations set by people like Taylor Anthony. So, I'm
Thanks, Rock. I'm trying out here, but I mean, all jokes aside, I'm very blessed
yeah.
to be where I'm at right now and what I'm trying to build on top of my news career. And, this podcast, this platform that I'm trying to build is so important. It's my passion for me as well. So, but I really think that it's Medill that gave me the skill set to jumpstart all of this and really hit the ground running in this industry. So, forever going to be thankful for my time and my experiences and my connection in that network. So,
Okay, got you. Yeah, definitely. I feel the same way. Grad school was a
mhm,
great addendum, to join the roughly 9% of black men in this country that have master's degrees. That's no small feat as well. And then, like I said,
mhm.
to be on full scholarship to be in and out in a year, like I said, is blessings on top of blessings.
Absolutely. All right. Well, before we go, I got a few questions. I got to ask you a few questions. So I know you're, big sports guy. Of course, going to be starting as a sports reporter. College football or NFL Sunday night football?
College football.
College football all the way. Okay, what's your team?
I really don't have a college team. I guess I'm a Alabama fan now. I don't know.
You gotta say, yeah. I guess you gotta say that now.
I guess I have to, but no, it's college football for sure. Just the fan bases are just absolutely insane, and being from Ohio, this. There were
Mm-hmm.
real
Oh yes,
discussions. Yeah,
Buckeyes.
there were real discussions about whether or not Ryan Day was a good coach. Only what a year or two
Mm-hmm.
removed from a national championship because he couldn't beat Michigan. In college football, it is that serious. There's also a drama element to it.
Mm-hmm.
We saw that this past season with Lane Kiffin and the him leaving Ole Miss for LSU and then all the things and even right now the tight end who was at the Cleveland Browns, he's going to play for LSU this year
Mm-hmm.
after getting cut, and the coaching carousel and the NIL and the transfer portal, all of those things. And I also feel like there's more
Yeah.
relatability. Not everybody's a professional athlete, but a lot of people were college students or college kids, or even if they didn't play for the team, they might have played in high school or
Mm-hmm.
played for the rec league. So it's college football all the way for sure. And then, of course, coming from an
College football.
HBCU, we love the band. We love the band. So, and that's something you
Mm-hmm.
get at the
Mm-hmm.
pro level.
Okay. Okay. Chicago or DC?
Oh, you're gonna do that to me. I'll see you later. No, I'm just kidding. But oh man, I would say, I would say, I'd say Chicago. I love everything about Chicago, but the winter.
Mm-hmm.
The river is beautiful. The architecture is beautiful. The lake is awesome. And there's also a lot of different elements to Chicago, right? Downtown in the Loop where the school is.
Mm-hmm.
That's not Hyde Park where I just came from and where my cousins live. Hyde Park is not Columbus Park, which is the west side of Chicago. Columbus Park.
Mm-hmm.
So even though it's Chicago, one city, there's a lot of different cities within the city, if that makes sense. So I would say,
Yeah, they give you a completely different feel. I get it.
oh yeah,
I get it. DC's a little different. DC's beautiful. DC
I
is great,
love
but it's a different
love
experience.
DC. Yeah.
Okay, and Super Bowl or Olympics, if you got, dream coverage one day, Can you pick?
Super Bowl, of course. I had an opportunity to
Super
go
Bowl.
to the Super Bowl with Medill Explorers. Did
Ah, that's right.
Yeah, did
Okay.
4 print stories, 3 video stories, and again, just went back to taking advantage of your opportunities, right? I was shocked when
Mm-hmm.
I heard that some people weren't doing video while they were there. This is a global event. This is a national event. You would
Right, right. You take advantage of
yeah,
it.
you want to squeeze that as hard as you can. And, even if you don't want to do video, just having that in your back pocket is important as well. We were
Mm-hmm.
required to do 2 stories. Some people just did the 2 and that was it. Hey, I want to do as much as I can. I want the Super Bowl behind me as much as possible. So Super Bowl
Mm-hmm.
for sure.
Okay, okay. Okay, I'm trying to think if there's any other hot takes. I don't know, you have any questions for me?
Yeah, what's next for you? Tamron Hall, Oprah,
Mm-hmm.
where are you going?
Good question, Brock. Good question. I'm 2 years in to this industry. I have another year left in Buffalo, and I'm just taking it day by day, taking it as it goes, being rooted in prayer
Amen.
and just trusting this process and knowing that where I'm meant to be is where I will be. Long-term dream, I mean, I would love to build this podcast and, I'll have a whole team. I'll have my EP over here. I'll have my people being flown into the studio. That's a big picture dream one day. But I gotta get to that point first. But I'm thankful that I have guests like you that are willing to come on, to just help me grow this, have a great conversation, just talking about life, because I feel like so many people can relate to these conversations that we're having. So, yeah, so I don't know what's next for me, but I know the best is yet to come.
Amen. Amen. And then last thing, go-to Bible story, favorite Bible story.
That's a good one. That is a good one. I think I'll just give you something recently that I've kind of been speaking over myself. Proverbs 3, 5, and 6, because where I'm at, let me recite it first. Trust in the Lord with all thy heart and lean not into thy own understanding. In all thy ways acknowledge him and he will direct thy path. I think I get so caught up sometimes in that next chapter and what this next step looks like and if I'm doing enough. And I'm like, I don't need to worry because he already has a plan for me. What am I worrying for? Because we serve a God that will always provide. So what am I stressing for? There's no reason for me to be stressing. So I think that's just something more recently that, a Bible verse specifically, I've been speaking over myself. So.
Okay. I like it. I like it.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, before we go, Brock, how can people keep up with you, follow your journey in Huntsville and beyond? Because, this is just the beginning for you.
Thank you. I appreciate it. I'm on social media at Brock Morgan TV and then LinkedIn as well. Just my name, Brock Morgan. So, yeah.
Okay. Well, shout out. I'll be sure to tag you, collab with you on all the little clips. I'm going to try to get this out as soon as we can. But thank you so much for coming on. Appreciate your time. Appreciate your insight, your guidance, your wisdom. I'm wishing you all the best in this next chapter.
Thank you. Thank you for having me. Best of luck to you as well. We're going to stay in touch for sure.
Brock, thank you for joining me and being so honest about your journey. Your story is proof that rejection doesn't always mean you aren't qualified. Sometimes it just means that your opportunity simply hasn't arrived yet. So to everyone listening, remember that you are more than an application, a job title, or someone else's decision. Keep building, keep checking in with yourself, and keep showing up. Make sure to follow Where You At on social media and subscribe wherever you're watching or listening, and I'll see you in the next episode.